Hello, guys, and welcome back to another installment of Galley Stories, Stories of the Bering Sea and Beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler, and today we have Deckhand on the FV Gladiator, Mark Scheving, with us today. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. So, where were you born?
I was born in Seattle, 1956. Grew up in Ballard. Um, Loyal Heights, James Monroe, Ballard High School. A lot of friends in the fishing industry. My family has no background in fishing, and my best friend growing up, Don Engbloom, his brother, Larry, about 10 years older, had the Mystery Maid, 56-foot beautiful Hansen boat. And Don went, I think he was 10th grade his first summer, and I went the summer after I graduated. The cook on there at the time, a guy by the name of Larry Arwin, he was killed in an avalanche over in Sun Valley, skiing out of bounds on the backside with another good friend, Paul Troco, who has a Yankee Maid right now. Long story short, he passed away. I got his job, and now I live in Sun Valley, and I've skied where he bit the dust there in the avalanche back in 1975. So I started fishing in 1975, the summer
on
of
the Mystery Maid.
On the Mystery Maid, seining in Southeast Alaska. Yes, sir.
I'm doing some salmon.
Doing some salmon, and then the next year we started longlining halibut in the spring, and then would switch over to seining in the summertime. I can't remember how long I stayed with Larry. 75 to probably 80, 81, and then I got a job crab fishing, and then a job longlining, with the Deep Sea Fishermen's Union. Dave Olson took me out my first trip in November, and I kind of went from there. Crab fished and longlined for about the next, 10, 15 years.
What was the first crab boat you got on?
The Rosie G, single pot brown crab, out Semi-Sapochnoi, Siguan Pass, Amchitka, day or so, I believe, west of Adak.
So when you say single pot, what do you mean by single pot?
That fishery has evolved into a long lining of pots. We set them single, one at a time. When one load of pots, Rosie G was only 98 feet, so we didn't have many pots. But set them out, let them soak, and then the tide you have to wait for the slack water, because the bags would sink. I was out there for, I think 3 months. And the processor would come by. I can't even remember the name of it. I think it was associated with East Point there in Dutch Harbor, but they'd come by every couple of weeks, pick up our crab, and we can get whatever groceries they could give us. And we were out there get some fuel, of course, and then
that was in the early 80s, 81, 82.
Yep. When the Adak military base was still going strong, and
sure.
We had a guy get sick, and they wouldn't even let us tie up in there. They
really
sent a Navy tug alongside, and we had to go into the bay and make a horseshoe and back out, and he got off the boat and then into the hospital.
Wouldn't even let you tie up.
Wouldn't even let us tie up to the dock. No. I don't know. We heard all kinds of stories about what was going on there, but I think originally that was all just, anti-submarine, and I'm sure they had radar out there for
stuff they didn't want
any incoming Soviet Union stuff. I was listening to we were waiting for the bags to pop up, and I was listening to a baseball game early April. The season had just started. It was the Yankees in Baltimore, Armed Services Radio Network, and just kind of jogging on where the gear was supposed to be. Beautiful day, early April, like I said, and got into about like the 8th inning, 9th inning. The score was 2-2. New York had a couple runners on. I don't remember the players specifically. And all of a sudden, I heard this, like somebody messing with the radio dials.
Right.
And the next thing I knew was workers of the world. This is Radio Moscow, and Comrade Chernyenko had just passed away. This was right after Brezhnev died. They went through like 3 premieres in a very short period. All old communists. Anyway, and this dirge music, and I'm going, fuck! What? The score was tied. It's we're getting down to the end of it, and I got to listen to this.
Right.
Never did find out who won.
You're still
I should Google that.
You're still into baseball today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Big Mariners fan, sharing the disappointment with everybody else in the Northwest. And yeah, we got the World Series tonight, Game 1, Boston and the Dodgers. And we have XM radio on the boat, and whenever I can have the time for it, I'll go up, and every single baseball game's on every day of the season. So my buddy Sean on the boat, he's a Arizona Diamondbacks fan. So between the Diamondbacks, which is the National League West, and the Mariners, American League West, we kind of stay in tune to this half of the country.
Right.
Screw the East Coast; they get all the press.
Right.
So it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
So starting up there in 81, 82, doing the single pot, that was still the time it was an open fishery.
Yeah, it was open access.
And you were just 3 months solid.
We came into Dutch Harbor one time, and that was only because we got into a storm. And in all the years I've been doing this, since 1975, that was the only time I was ever really afraid. We were in Seguam Pass and trying to get to the Pacific side. Another boat who we partnered with, the West Fjord, they're no longer with us. They went down crossing the Gulf in, I think, 1989. All hands lost. Knew every single one of those guys. Terrible. But anyway, this guy running it, Phil, I can't remember his last name, he was on the Pacific side, and he was coaching us to get over there, get out of the weather. And we turned that boat around to head that direction. I think the wind was coming out of the northwest, blowing well over 100. Biggest seas I've ever seen. That boat was 98 feet, and they were 60, 70 feet.
What was the make of her?
Marco.
Okay, so she's built.
But when we had been jogging into it, and we blew all three sodiums off the tripod, the rigging, and how we didn't bust a window out, I'll never know to this day. But we had a wooden box out behind the I think it was the port side door that disappeared. So there was some serious green water coming over that boat, and I was up there with my buddy Donnie, got me the job on the Mystery Maid, and a couple of times we hit the floor. But looking down from the crest down into the bottom of the trough, it was the length. It seemed to be the length of the boat, and
100 foot.
All 98 feet. So yeah, it was quite the sight.
Yeah,
quite the sight. And since then, I've been in a few other good ones, but nothing like that. And I've heard Seguam Pass can be one of the worst with the tide, the wind.
How long did it take you to run to safety?
I don't remember. All night, I think.
That's
all
a long
night
time
into
to
the
keep
next
your butt
morning,
puckered.
and you couldn't lay in your bunk. I mean, we stayed up in the wheelhouse the whole time. I think that's when I started smoking cigarettes.
Do you have your survival suit close
No.
by?
Geez, I don't even know if we had survival suits in those days.
Right.
I don't remember. I certainly don't remember any sort of drill or anything like
that was really
like we do now. I'm sure we had we must have had a life raft.
That's 30.
But
years ago.
I don't know if we had an EPIRB. Can't remember. It was an adventure, though. By God.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. So that was your scariest time at sea?
Yeah, I would say that was my scary. Most of the time in bad weather, I dig it.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, but really a sight to behold. power of Mother Nature, and like
you got no control.
Like
right?
they say, you don't want to piss Mother Nature off.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I've been up on watch at times in bad weather, and just because nobody else will do it or doesn't want to, and have the music blasting, and
it's a party.
Little Santana, little Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, of course.
And now, what was the name of that boat? The crab boat?
Oh, the first one I was on was the Rosie G.
Okay. How long were you on her?
Boy. Off and on, I think, for over a period of maybe 10 years.
Why don't I know the boat? I mean, is it still...
Well, no, it sank.
Okay.
It sank. The guy that, Peter Bottom, the guy that owned it, sold it to, I think, Rick Mezich, who has the, Fierce Allegiance, among other vessels, Early Dawn, I think. And I remember seeing maybe for the very earliest part of the Deadliest Catch or something, or was something on Discovery Channel perhaps, and the boat went down by the stern. The lazarette flooded, and I don't think it got bolted down back there, and they had pots over it. They were on strike and then left.
So at the
A
dock?
little bit of an oversight. No, out in the ocean. It was a big, about the size of your table here, a big hatch, and I don't know the facts, but that's my guess. If it went down by the stern, something happened.
Yeah.
In the lazarette with a load of pots on it. Anyway, I think everybody got off, as I recall. But yeah, more than one went down that way.
38 years in the water. You ever respond to a Mayday call? Or ever on a vessel that had a Mayday call?
No, heard quite a few. There was a storm. It was on the Sea Rover, and I can't remember if it was 1989 or maybe 1990, just after or before Thanksgiving, because back then you could do, it was open access, so you could do king crab, and then once that season was over, you had 1 week to get your gear, finished with king crab, switched over to barraday. In those days, you had to re-rig the pots. You didn't have groups of gear for each fishery. Barraday, Opelio, and king crab. So we had to actually put the tanner boards in and maybe add another shot of line because you fish a little deeper and whatnot. But
shot of line is another 100.
Yeah, it was the 33 fathoms for a shot. I hope I got that right for all you crabbers listening.
So going deeper. And then explain the tanner board. What's the tanner board?
A tanner board is during king crab you have no board. It's just an open tunnel, and I can't remember what the measurements are via Fish and Game.
Big enough to get that big son of a bitch in.
Right, exactly. And the tanner board, so the tanners move really quickly. It's amazing how fast they can go. And so these tanner boards have an opening, 3 1/4 inches maybe, between the framing on the mesh, where the web comes together to the tunnel, and then this board is kind of up and over it, like like a little shelf, if you will. And the crab can get in, but they have if you didn't have them on there, they'd crawl. They'd find their way out. Mm-hmm. So anyway, re-rig the gear, add another shot of line, if you will. And anyway, we were fishing tanners, and there was a blow, and I think there was 12, 13 maydays. Boats blew windows out. Another huge storm. Some say 100+ mile an hour winds, and I've heard 100-foot seas. I don't think that was the case. 40, 50 feet maybe, the most 40.
It's still no joke. That's...
All I know is the next day, and I think 2 or 3 boats actually went down. Small boats, small schooner-style vessels sank. Nobody died, but yeah, there was maydays like crazy that morning, mm-hmm. and shit. By the afternoon, the rest of the crew was in bed, and I was up listening to the Allman Brothers and Santana riding it out.
Do you remember really tuning into that Kodiak broadcast of
Peggy?
Peggy.
You bet.
Yeah.
You
Because
bet.
if you started 40 years ago, you were getting
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
all.
yeah. And I always wondered, you know how when you hear someone's voice on the radio, you wonder what they look like.
Sure.
Okay, you have your mind's eye gives you yeah.
You got them outfitted in
know,
clothing
same
too.
thing. Same thing when you read a book or listen to a podcast. I don't know. Anyway, I always envisioned Peggy with a bouffant hairdo and sequined cat's eye glasses with a sweater over her shoulders with a little brooch pinning it closed, you know, and of course her glasses had a nice chain, and you know, hello all mariners, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night.
All the time.
At 4125, you know, you listen to the weather.
Everyone.
And if you know the captain wasn't there, you wrote it down.
The history there, wasn't she doing that initially because of her husband?
Yeah, Oscar Dyson. But anyway, when she retired, there was a picture. I don't know. I don't. You know, do the whole People or Enquire thing. You know, one of my old Norwegian captains, he'd buy all that stuff. You know, and then when he got done with it, we'd throw it on the galley table. Here you go, fellas. And sure enough, this People magazine article, there was a picture of Peggy, bouffant hairdo, sequin trim cat eye glasses, sweater pinned at the throat.
No.
Yes, just
nailed it.
I nailed it.
So when you described her just then, I was you know who I'm thinking of is Minnie Pearl. I'm picturing Minnie Pearl, with you know, obviously without the hat,
without the price tags hanging all over.
Yeah, but that's the vision I've got when you're, you know.
Oh yeah, Peggy, and she even I can remember a few broadcasts when she said, "If you fellas don't have to be out there tonight working, please don't." Mm-hmm. You know, it's going to be really bad.
Just for a little history, guys, I suggest that you Google Peggy and the Kodiak Mariner broadcast, because every old-time mariner knows exactly who she is, and many have credited her with saving lives and just making people aware of what was coming.
Oh yeah, that late January in like 1989 when the Westfjord left Seattle a little bit late for the Opie season, and they were somewhere south and east of the Trinities when, you know, it was tremendous northwest cold. Oh my God. That's I listened to her that night, and she said, please, if you guys don't have to be out there, don't be out there. Well, they were out there, and they kept going, and they iced up and disappeared. Knew every single guy on that boat.
What year was that?
I believe it was 1989.
Were they running E-perps back then, and were?
You know, I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah. Just, you know, nowadays
we were leaving Akutan, and we had unloaded not at Trident, but at Deep Sea, who was up at the head of the bay, and we unloaded and we're headed up to the Pribilofs. The kid on the watch, I'm not going to name any names, he turned the radio down so he could listen to music, and we had a following.
Probably Santana.
No Santana. I think he was a little bit probably Michael Jackson. No, 89, yeah. Anyway, he turned the radio down. He was told not to do that, and he did. And so we got on our way up to the Pribilofs, and the next morning, there was the pon call from the Coast Guard, and you know about what happened to the Westfjord. Well, was he our engineer? Anyway, he was on the boat, and his brother was on the boat. Well, by then the weather had switched, okay, northwest to southeast, and we wound up spending 6 days on anchor at the Pribs. Couldn't fish, 50-60 constantly. You know, the whole fleet was jockeying for a place to to tie up. West side, and moved around to the north side and drag an anchor, and there was no way we could get him on the beach at St. Paul.
It had to be tough.
It was too bad. Well, his wife had sent him up 2 half gallons of vodka in a little care package, and he was, consumed the vodka and was just devastated about all those guys. We like I said, we knew everybody on that boat, and his little brother was a deckhand on there.
And did you know everyone was lost?
Yeah.
So while you're on that, set up a care package of vodka. This was a different time in the fishery, right? This was.
Oh yeah, the best thing that ever happened was the zero tolerance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Could never emphasize that enough. I mean, it.
But are you still looking back, going, "Oh, the good old days"?
No,
sometimes,
no. A lot of it was a nightmare. You come into Dutch or wherever you were, and you had the guys that smoked weed or worse, or drank, and it wasn't a lot of real adult supervision, and guys would take off in different directions, and then there's all this work to do, load bait, make repairs. Yeah, and you wind up going, driving around trying to find where they're at or who saw them the last, and then they ain't worth a shit, and they get back on board the boat, so you wind up doing
somebody else's
their job or part of their job. No, it was a real drag.
Clearly, you were one of the guys that kept your shit straight when you were working.
Well, I wasn't an angel, but you get hired, and all you got as a crew member is a reputation. I like to think of myself as being considered sober and reliable. My phone always rang. I always had work.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to pick and choose.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for that.
Sure. So you've probably seen some guys make some pretty bad decisions then.
Yeah, a lot of them are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. How many people do I know in this business that are no longer with us? I think the last time I sat down and thought about it and counted up was like 19. Some drownings, of course. Boat sank. The Westfjord was 6 guys.
And you knew every one of them.
And a few other guys fell overboard, and there was a few other boats that went down that I knew at least one guy on. And then, God, I guess you could probably add on top of that alcohol and drugs. Contributed to a shortened lifespan.
Sure. We still have guys today ODing on stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was every time you got back to Seattle, you heard the news about somebody that bit it. A few of them up in Dutch Harbor.
Sure.
Locked themselves in a hotel room and with a sack and induce a heart attack.
Yeah, I actually lost someone I consider a good friend up there who locked himself in a hotel room. Paul Garcia, you probably remember Paul.
Yeah, I remember Paul. Yeah, I heard about that.
Just terrible.
Sad deal.
Yeah.
Sad deal.
So you've seen the safety change too. Not only the restrictions on the zero tolerance, of course, but you've seen safety from 1975, where you didn't even know if you did drills, just looking back, or if you even had a
no, I mean, hey, I knew how to swim, so
doesn't help
go
in
down
those waters.
And swim to the beach. Not in the Bering Sea. No, not in the Bering Sea, but
so you've seen it change significantly.
Oh yeah, and I've heard a lot of complaints about those changes and the regulations. Of course, a lot of people, fishermen, independent lot that we are, we don't like regulations, but I have to say the safety regulations and things that are mandatory, and if it's not written down, it never happened, right? So the drills we do, the log we keep, very important stuff, especially for anybody just getting into the business. I mean, I'm not going to say when I first started fishing I was the sharpest knife in the drawer. Learned a lot of things, and things seem to stick. Had a lot of good mentors and teachers. I was fortunate that way. Try and do the same thing to young people coming on board now. I mean, we're not getting any younger, and we need people to take over. And I can't emphasize enough common sense and safety.
Yeah. Well, it saved a lot of lives. I mean,
absolutely.
The ones you hear about losing nowadays. I mean, obviously sometimes it's just so fast and there's nothing anyone can do. But most of the guys that are thrown overboard at this point are recovered because they've got on their individual EPIRB, they've got on their life, their jacket.
Well, I never used a personal flotation device until it was mandatory when I was working with Trident.
Mm-hmm.
Even crab fishing, shit, we had helmets and life jackets, and never realized that even a just a foam vest, the insulative value it had in the middle of winter.
A little warmer.
Fishing opies. I mean, thank you. Thanks for pointing that out.
Right.
Well,
now they've got jackets that are just like a winter jacket you'd put on at home, but they're flotation devices.
Sure.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
On your boat specifically, one year, Ed French, he wants to order heated jackets. But the Far West leader had just ordered them the year before. Greg Moncrief, he had to have these heated jackets, Milwaukee heated jackets. Well, when we got them to the guys up there, the batteries they beat the hell out of them.
Well, right? You're not working very hard if you need a heated jacket.
Well, they were the new thing, and at that time,
you're supposed
the Northwestern was testing them.
Whatever. You're supposed to do the layers, okay? Cold, extra layer. Gets warmer, you take that layer off. I mean, it's not hard to figure out.
Sure.
And like I say, you keep moving. Crab fishing, you don't have to worry about it. T-shirt, cotton sweatshirt, cotton sweatpants.
And your Grundens, and you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're lucky to get in and change your clothes between strings, or at least gloves.
Right.
Trawling this is something I should have done about 40 years ago.
Should have done
38 years ago, whenever it was.
All right, I'm going to move you into a new question, because you crabbed for years. You started in 80, just stopped in 2005?
2012.
2012. We got a lot of years crabbing.
Yep.
I want to talk about the coldest you had ever been when you were on the deck of a crab boat.
That's easy. 2012, the winter of. My last season crab fishing at 56 years old. And I emailed our fleet manager with Trident at the time and said, dude, get me out of this. I'm too old for this crap. And I'd already established a relationship with Ed on the Gladiator. I've been up to Togiak a couple years in a row with him herring tendering, because we were done with our opies in February and whatnot. And
wait, describe this cold to me. You just said it was.
Anyway, the winter of 2012, the whole fishing grounds were covered in ice, and of course that was about the time when people were talking about global warming and climate change, and certainly did not see it at that time. What should have taken us 3 weeks to catch our quota took 3 months. And the state actually extended the season for guys who had a little more quota than we did. I believe until, they were fishing crab when we were tendering herring in May.
May, okay. Yeah.
I think it might have they extended the opie season until the end of May that year instead of the middle of April, the end of April. No town soak. We did not get one single town soak that season. Had to pick, when we had a trip, we had to pick every pot out of the water, put it on the boat, take it in. I think we had one trip in Accutane.
Because you were worried about the ice running over it.
Exactly. One trip to Accutane and 2 into St. Paul. So we got in. All the crab pots had to come off the boat before we could deliver. And then when we were done, put all of them back on, and then we waited until the ice receded. Did not blow out of the southeast, maybe 1 or 2 days that whole time.
Just miserable days.
Bitterly cold. I mean, the scuppers would freeze up. It was a bad slime year as well, so slime gets on the 3/4 buoy line and increases the weight of the 2.5-3 shots by 2 or 3 times. Took 2 people to lift the shuttle line into the pot so you could stack the gear. And then it was so cold, all froze together. So you'd drag it out, and then 2 guys with the cartoon hammers, beat it loose. And then you'd have to have help to lift the line. And for those listening out here, oh, he's a puss. I'll say, kiss my ass. That stuff was frozen and it was heavy. And I'm not gonna throw my back out or a shoulder or whatnot. So we worked together. We had 2 guys lift the shots up onto the pot to set the gear, and it was like that for 3 months.
That's when you made the call and said that's.
Well, when the scuppers are freezing up all the time, and you lower a guy over the side of the boat in a bosun's chair with a pry bar to knock the ice out of the scuppers.
The scuppers allow water to get off the deck.
You're circulating water on the crab, right? And so it has to be free flowing. It's not enclosed in refrigerated seawater like you do when you're pollock fishing, and everything is contained. And pulling up deck boards and dealing with the ice and improvising with flat blade shovels and on and on and on for 3 months. And then you'd make your trip and then put the gear on the boat. We spent 2 trips, for one time for 10 days, the other time for 2 weeks, up against the ice floe, waiting for some ground to open up. There was literally a postage stamp. And everybody had their gear in there, and maybe they were getting, 20, 30 crab a pot. Well, you can't do an Opie. I mean, it'd take you forever. Right? And, Harold, my captain at the time, Harold Myrol, God bless him, or we'd set the gear, and then 6 hours later, here comes the ice, marching on down. And then it was a 24 hours, whatever, scramble to get all the gear back on the boat again.
Yeah, because the ice was going to eat it.
Well, it was gonna carry it away. So yeah, 2012, the cold. In the 80s, there were some brutally cold winters as well. I think one of the coldest I've ever experienced was probably in St. Paul, 30 below. Hurt to breathe.
That's a hard harbor to get in when it's that cold.
Well, they had a tug there, and it was closed for a few days. They had a tug in there to bust the ice up and whatnot, or you get in there and one time on the Rosie G, we got in there and we're there a little too long, and the keel coolers froze up. And I spent a couple of hours inside the lazarette where the crossover was with the freaking oxygen and acetylene.
Trying to warm it back up.
Heating the pipes so we could fire up the main and move. Now I don't want to go up there in January anymore. I want to go skiing.
Before we get into the golden years of switching over to the Gladiator now, right? Every fisherman has some kind of support group at home that really keeps them going, or at least makes it good to come home to you. What do you got?
Oh, I got my beautiful wife, Lisa. And her kids. I never had any kids of my own. Gavin and Caitlin. And then Hubert, my second golden retriever, and Gizmo, our little weenie dog.
When you said Hubert, I thought, somebody named their kid Hubert?
No, golden. It's a good. If you saw Hubert, then you will someday. He's a Hubert all the way. Big goof.
So
85 pounds of love me.
How's that support been?
It's been awesome. She's kind of my rock.
I recall you saying she didn't sign up to be a fisherman's wife.
No, she didn't. And to her credit, she's put up with it. We had lots of discussions about it. Some a little more voluminous than others, but she's hanging in there. I got a couple years left, realistically.
Of
so
marriage?
No.
Of fishing.
No, she's a keeper. This one.
How long you been married?
See, we got married in 2006. That was official, but we've been together since 2001. And she's my
17 years.
She's my second wife. My first one, actually, I had said I was going to give up fishing, but I couldn't do it. The phone would ring. One of my buddies would, come on, just make a trip, a couple of trips. Come on, it's a 4-week Opie season. A couple of week king crab. I got some halibut quota in 2C. You'll only be gone 2 weeks.
Right. Oh yeah.
You can't turn that down.
Yeah.
And finally, she said, you do it one more time, and we're done. Well, I did it one more time, and
you were done.
Yeah. Plus, we, built a big house, and she got the house. I got the dog and the truck.
Good dog.
Oh yeah, golden retrievers, man, golden retrievers.
All right, so then you moved on to the Gladiator.
I did. I was very fortunate to get a spot on the Gladiator. Yes, indeed.
There's a big difference between going up crab fishing in January versus going pollock fishing.
Well, we did cod. We do cod.
The workload required as well.
We do cod in January, and then last few years it's been a couple of pollock trips when it first opens, and then switched to cod. Last year they flew up and did cod immediately. I'm not going to do cod anymore. I've got a young man, Kendrick, pork chop. He's going to take my spot full time when I retire, and he's going to do the.
What's Kendrick's last name?
Luce.
Of course.
Elmer's.
Third generation.
Elmer's nephew.
Third generation. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful kid. Wonderful kid. He's going to take my spot when I decide to, or when they decide to, put me out to pasture.
When whoever decides.
Put me out to pasture, or tie cement shoes to my feet. And
so obviously, over the years, you keep going back. So fishing has had to have been pretty good for you. Pretty good for you. Pretty good for your family.
Oh my God, it's been incredible. Been very fortunate. I'm not going to say that I didn't work hard to achieve it, because without working hard and being committed to a crew, to a boat, to an owner, now to a company, you're not going to get very far. And like I said, as a deckhand, all you really have as a reputation is working hard and being sober, reliable, and getting along with people. That's probably the 3 most important attributes you could have.
Besides getting the work done.
Well, yeah.
That's
yeah.
given, right?
That's a given.
Would you change
and in a timely manner and professional manner. And the captain says, I want this done, that done, whatever, makes a suggestion. I like to kind of anticipate what maybe the captain is thinking, so he doesn't have to say anything to anybody.
And just get it done.
It's just done.
Yeah.
And he brings it up, and that's how cool is it to, without him telling you, if he brings it up, that's already done.
Would you change anything?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. After all these years, yeah, I probably would have tried to. Looking back, hindsight being 20/20 and all that, I probably would have maybe gone to college, got a degree. Now that I've owned a couple of dogs, Been a veterinarian maybe, but no. Other than that, I live in Sun Valley, Idaho. I moved over there in 1990 from Ballard, and skiing is my passion. So this job affords me 40 to 60 days a year of
solid skiing.
Pursuing that. Yeah. Now I'm into kind of chasing the weather around the Rocky Mountains, Salt Lake City, over to Jackson, up to Big Sky, Grand Targhee. Hopefully Canada this January. Yeah, I got the bucket list just like everybody else.
Sure. Would you what advice would you have for these young guys coming in?
Keep your ears open, your mouth shut, put that fucking phone away, and listen, learn, and use common sense. Mm-hmm. It's a great life. It can be a great life. It's the guys, Ed on the Gladiator, and all the guys I work with, Brandon and Gary and Porkchop and Sean. I mean, they're like my brothers, and we've all been together for 5 years. I mean, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Mm-hmm. It's a really good opportunity to have the life, and plus you can live anywhere you want, literally in the world.
A lot of guys do. Last week was Gaspar Herrera. He's in
Paraguay. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there's guys that live in Maine and Vermont. And
Gary Hughes lives in Thailand. And
you could live in Hawaii. You could live, Philippines, Mexico. I mean, why not?
Sure.
You could go from ski resort to ski resort. That's my advice. Go from ski resort to ski. Whether you're a boarder, I'm on two of them.
Jack Mullen would have said, from the good high seas for surfing, and everybody's got their fun and leisure.
Yeah, that and skiing and fly fishing.
That's gonna be it. Well, we're pushing the time. So before we end, though, I want to encourage everyone, as we always do, to eat wild Alaska seafood.
Absolutely.
Nothing like
salmon is the world's most perfect food.
And I always say wild Alaska seafood, but wild seafood in general. Don't go for the farm stuff.
There's no need. There's really no need. And like I said, man, everybody do what they can to preserve, promote, and protect wild salmon on planet Earth.
Yeah, our resources. Yeah.
And no pebble mine.
No pebble mine. All right, so we're about out of time here, Mark. Is there anything you want to end with? Anything you feel like you need to get out there?
No, it's been fun. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaler, and we're going to miss you at Trident. I really am. I could make a phone call, and we get our order shipped up in a timely manner, and I hope whoever takes your place can... No, we're going to miss you, and thanks very much for the opportunity to do this. I appreciate it.
Yep. Leave and Trident because this podcast is paying off real big, guys. No, just kidding. I'll still be within the fleet. It's all the fleet. We're all the fleet. We're all fishermen, and we're all intertwined regardless. So
you and your wife make a road trip over to Sun Valley sometime.
Go skiing.
Yeah, absolutely. Or fly fishing.
Absolutely. All right, guys. This has been another installment of Galley Stories, Stories of the Bering Sea and Beyond. I think next week's episode will be Ed French, who Mark's referenced several times today. But again, eat that wild Alaska seafood, and tune in next time. Also, follow us on Facebook, like and share Mark's release here. So it's been Mark Scheving, the deckhand on the FV Gladiator. 38 years of life on the sea. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Adios.